वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथया मुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविता शाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकि कोकिलं वाल्मीकेर्मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं कुनयाति परां गतिं वेदवेदे परे पुंसि जायते दशरथात्मजे वेदः प्राचेतसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना अञ्जनानन्दनं वीरं जानकीशोकनाशनं कपीशम् अक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्का भयङ्करं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि आञ्जनेयमदिपाठलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनं यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम्। Namaskaram to the Astikas present on day 3, which is today. We will be having the opportunity to experience Srimad Ramayanam's second canto, which is Ayodhya Kandam. Amongst the Kandams in Srimad Ramayanam, Ayodhya Kandam and Yuddha Kandam are the biggest. Though Ayodhya Kandam does not deal with many years like the Bala Kandam, it just deals with about a month's time in the life history of Rama. Ayodhya Kandam is also referred to as the canto of emotions. The essence of Ramayanam, Valmiki's compilation of Rama's history, which is called Adikavyam Srimad Ramayanam, has been presented to us in the form of literature by many great poets and dramatists. One such work, which came in the post-Valmiki period, post-Ramayana period, but is hailed as one of the greatest pieces of Sanskrit literature, is Raghuvamsham. There is an old saying, Upama Kalidasasya Bharaver Arthagauravam Dandinaha Padalalityam Maghe Santi Trayogunaha. If at all one needs to learn how similes have to be used, Upama Kalidasasya, so they should read Kalidasa's works. Kalidasa's works are primarily 6 in number. There are more attributed to him, primarily 6. 3 are in the poetic format. 3 are in the format of a drama. Abhigyana Shakuntalam, Vikrama Urvashiyam, Malavika Agnimitram. These are the three dramas of Kalidasa. Three poetic works: Raghuvamsham, Kumara Sambhavam, Meghadutam. So, by the end of the lecture, when you drive back home, make it an exercise to recollect all the proper nouns that I've used today. Trust me, this is one of the ways that you can actually postpone some of the disorders which are very common these days, such as Alzheimer's, dementia and so on. All our acharyas, you'll be surprised. If someone says that the Vedic civilization is the only and the oldest civilization, they should look at themselves in the mirror and know that they are liars. There were many civilizations that thrived alongside the Vedic civilization. The Egyptian civilization is very ancient. The Sumerian civilization is absolutely old. So is the Mesopotamian and to some extent the Persian civilization. So these civilizations also existed 6,000, 7,000 years back or even 5,000 years back. But what makes Vedic civilization akin to the Indic or the Indus Valley civilization special is that it is a living civilization. If we read that Aruna Prashnam was recited 5,000 years back, if we read that Aghamarshana Suktam was recited 5,000 years back, it is still recited today. Just not in Bharatadesham, even in a Shiva Vishnu temple in Maryland. So it is a living civilization. How has this civilization managed to survive the onslaught of so many invasions is because more than relying on books and manuscripts, we relied on memory. Our acharyas believed that you should never use a book. Now don't look at me. I said that good speakers don't use books. Giti Shigri Shirakkampi Tatha Likhita Patakaha Anarthagyaha Alpakanticha Shadete Patakadhamaha is a Prachina Shlokam, Subhashitam. The question is, what are the flaws of a bad speaker? Giti, you should never sing and speak together. You should not, for example, Perumal, Vandaram, Kataram, Ada Sholindukumbodu, Apodanaradar Vandar. You should not do this. You should either sing and speak or speak and sing. Giti, Shigri. You should not speak at a pace where people are not able to enjoy and comprehend what you're speaking. Probably this is one of the easiest ways to avoid questions. If I speak fast, then people will not ask questions because the first process of understanding itself is gone. Then only comes the art of questioning. Shigri, Shira Kampi. You should not shake your head too much as a speaker. Audience should nod their heads, not me. Shirakkampi. Tatha likhita pathakaha. Writing down everything what I have to speak, then I will be in danger. Imagine the lights are turned off. What will I do? Likhita pathakaha. Anarthagyaha. You should not use words which are not appropriate for that particular situation. Imagine there is a beautiful auspicious event such as a marriage which is happening. Somebody from the bride's side or the groom's side identify me in the audience and they say that I believe that you were invited by the temple to speak. Just say a few words in this marriage occasion as well. I get onto the stage. Dear audience, sadly to begin, imagine I use this tone and tenor in the words such as sadly. So that's not right. Anarthagyaha. It is not appropriate for that place. Alpakanticha. Alpakantham is when you have a very shrill voice. At times when you squeak and you have a shrill voice that can turn off the audience. Alpakanticha. Shadete pathakadhamaha. These are the 6 deficits that a bad speaker will possess. So our civilization believed in memorizing. I am sure you will be completely disbelieving me, or you may be in awe when I say, till about 40 years, there was a great Tatachar Swami in Kanchipuram, Nagareshu Kanchi. That Swami had memorized 1,25,000 verses of Mahabharata. Can you even imagine? 1,25,000 verses. He doesn't have to refer. He doesn't have to put a Control F and check where the keywords are. If somebody asks him, Yatra Krishnascha Krishnascha Satyabhamacha Bhamini, Swami, where does this shlokam come? He'll say, Udyoga Parva, this particular adhyayam, this particular sargam. This is how this civilization has managed to live. So, amongst the poets, we had Kalidasa, we had Bharavi, Bharaver Arthagauravam. What is Bharavi's famous work called? I did mention that the day before yesterday. I mentioned at about 4:15 p.m. Before Ramajananam, I mentioned this. Bharavi's work is called Kiratarjuniyam. I did mention of Vadakkanathan of Trishur, Kirata. So Bharaver Arthagauravam. Dandinaha Padalalityam. Dandi was famous for the way the lines flowed. You know, at times, the usage of words add to the beauty of the sentence. Vedanta Deshika states, Mrudu hridaye daye mrudita ka mahite mahite dridha vibudhe budheshu vidatat madhure madhure Vrishagiri sarva bhauma daite maite mahati bhavuka nidhe nidhehi bhavamula haram lahari. This format in Sanskritam is called Yamakam. Well, Dandi was very famous for that. Maghe santi trayo gunaha. Magha as a poet had all these three specialities, it seems. There used to be good similes, the words were the appropriate words, and the sentences were as beautiful as it can get. So Magha's work is called as Shishupala Vadham. Shriyapati Srimati Shasitum Jagat Jagannivasaha Vasudeva Sadmani Vasanda Darsha Vadaranda Mambarad Hiranya Garbhanga Bhuvam Munim Harihi is the first verse of Shishupala Vadham. Make it, have this as your wish list. People say I have to go to Greece, I have to see Incas, how they cooked, how they bathed. Make it a point. Before you breathe your last breath, you should have completed one kavyam, reading one kavyam in your life. You're missing something so beautiful. We have bequeathed a very, very rich literature. In Kalidasa's Raghuvamsham, Kalidasa states, it seems Dasharatha went and stood before the mirror. Probably after all the administration chaos and all the rules, today he had that time. So he went and stood before the mirror and he started combing. Men and women in those days had long hair. Well, that is in the fashion today. But men and women had long hair. Both of them used to wear similar jewelry. So today, if men sport some earrings or chain, we look at them, oh, he's sporting jewelry. No, men and women were competing with each other to sport jewelry. Alankara Priyo Vishnu. If Lakshmi produces wealth, he is the recipient of that wealth. So Dasharatha went and stood before the mirror and he started combing. And trust me, after so many years, he had one grey hair, one strand. Kalidasa states, Tam karnamoolamagatya ramer shrir nyasyatam iti kaikeyi shankhayevaha paritachadmana jara. What did that hair say? Now you will wonder, what is this? How can hair speak? If hair can't speak, we can't get poetry. Hair has to speak, stones have to weep, then only you will get poetry. See, poetic license is when you have to assume and extrapolate and exaggerate things. Then only you will get poetry. Those of them who can appreciate Tamil may remember, you used to get a separate publication called Kalki Deepavali Malar. Mamiyar Vayya Vayya Marumahal Aludal. Some erstwhile anecdote it is. It is not relatable at all today. Maybe the vice versa is relatable. Mamiyar Vayya Vayya Marumahal Aludal. Halum tan kankalai tan pudavai talappar. Tan tadavi vittu pulindal. Aduve oru kulamaga mari vittadu. Writes the poet. It seems the daughter-in-law was weeping as the mother-in-law was rebuking her. And then she squeezed the pallu of her sari and that turned into a lake. If this was the case, then Chennai would have never had a water problem at all. You will ask people to come and cry. So all this is found in poetry. So the thin strand of hair said, Hey Dasharatha, it is high time that you become a Vanaprastha. You go to the Vanam. Give this administration to your son. Because you have turned old. Jara. Tam Karnamulam Agatya. It came very close to the ear, it seems. Rame Shrivnyasyadamiti. That was its message. Give this kingdom to Rama. Kaikeyi Shankayevaha. Remember, don't tell this to Kaikeyi. That hair said. Parita Chadmana Jara. Because you have turned old. Kamban tells us beautifully. Naraitadu or Mayir. Now there is one question that comes here. Those of you who are conversant with reading Rajagopalachari's Ramayana or the Moola Ramayana, it is said that Dasharatha ruled for 60,000 years. Can you even utter this number again? Anybody who is listening to this for the first time? What? 60,000 years. Remember, Gautama's Nyaya Sutra says that if a king manages to administer his kingdom with no large calamities in the region, with no big scams or allegations, then 1 year of his regime is equivalent to 1,000 years of any other normal king. So any king who has got allegations, disasters, calamities and so on, put their 1,000 years together, that will be 1 year of this good king. So Dasharatha may have ruled for 60 years, which is told as 60,000 years. You may be wondering, shouldn't we be specific with numbers? See, if somebody is serving me food, after my Kolambu Sadam, which is sambar rice, they are serving me rice again. I tell them, now she is very calculated. 1. 2. Will she put that? So 2 means little. 2 literally doesn't translate to the number 2. Similarly, 60,000 years is equivalent to 60. So, Dasharatha told to himself, Pritiresha katham ramo rajasyan mai jivati yesha hyasta para pritir hridi samparivartate kada nama sutam drakshyam abhishiktamaham priyam vruddhikamo hi lokasya sarva bhutanukampakaha. Then he thought, he questioned himself, will Rama be a good heir apparent? Will he be a good king in the making? Yuvaraja. Anurupasavo natho Lakshmiman Lakshmana Grajaha Trailokyamapi nathena yenasya nathavattaram. Then he thought, as a father, I may be partial to my son, even if my son doesn't have qualifications. I may feel that my son has to become the next king. Let me go ask the people. So it is often an accusation in Bharata Desham that from time immemorial we have been following a dynasty. Right? The king's son will become the next king. So there was no competition held to find the most suitable person and to make him the king. So it's often an accusation that Kshatriya Kulam adhered to dynasty and there was no democracy. But look here, though it was dynastic in nature, in the true sense they were democratic. The king went to the people and asked, I think that my son could become the next king, but I need your suggestion. So he asked the people. So though it may seem like dynasty, it was a democracy. But after independence, many people accused that we were supposed to be a democracy, but we ended up being a dynasty. So he asked his subjects, is Rama the appropriate person to be my heir apparent? Immediately what was the reaction? Valmiki says there was a little tremor, it seems, in the assembly. He could feel the same feeling what he gets to see when the peacocks dance when there are dark clouds. It is often told in our literature, when there are dark clouds, the peacocks dance. Barhinaha iti bruvantam muditaha pratyanandan nripam drishtimantam mahamegham nardanta iva barhinaha. So he was still confused. Is this the reaction? I have been asking a proper question. If my son is capable or not, is this the reaction that I should get? That is when they said, Ichchamo hi mahabahum raghuviram mahabalam gajena mahatayantam ramam chhatra vritananam. The people said, Ichchamo hi mahabahum, Ichchami. We wish. We were waiting for a very long time. So what does that Ichchami mean? We wished. But there is another interpretation what one commentator called Periyavachan Pillai gives. He says, the people wanted to say, first, we wish Rama becomes the heir apparent. The second version, we can only wish. Implementation is in your hands. Ichchamo hi mahabahum, mahabahum. We were waiting when this son of yours with long arms, Mahabahum, he's called Bahubali, right? Because Kshatriyas were supposed to have long arms. Their shoulders were supposed to be they should stretch large. When I used to be in Bombay, for 5.5 years I lived in Bombay, worked there. So I used to live in a place called as Matunga. From Matunga, I had to fly to another place called as a Vikhroli. So on the way, every morning in the early hours, I used to see many men stand up in queues because they were all waiting for the police recruitment. So in Bharata Desham, to be a part of the police, you'll have to fit into their medical values. They'll check the length of your arms, your chest, your tummy. No, there should be no tummy. You should have minimum size. After you join, it can. So till you join, they'll check. So in those days, to be called a proper Kshatriya, if a person stands straight, his arms at the end, this palm, should exceed my knee. So the portion till your knee is called as Uru, thigh, or it is also called Janu. So if your Bahu exceeds the Janu, that excess in Sanskritam is denoted by a letter A. Exceeding the Janu, the person has Bahu, he is called Ajanu Bahum. Ajanu Bahum Aravinda Dalayadaksham. Ajanu Bahum. So Rama had long arms. Andal, while she falls in love with the Lord of a kshetram called Vrishabhadri. In Tamil it is called Tirumalirum Sholai. Locally it is called Alagar Kovil. Sindhura Shempodi Pol Tirumalirum Jolai Engum Indira Govangale எழுந்து பரந்திட்டனவாம் மந்தர நாட்டி என்று மருதகோரு ஷாரு கொண்டு சுந்தர தோளுடையான், says Andal, the one who has got beautiful arms. That is what the people said. Ichhamohi mahabahum Raghuveeram, the one who comes in the lineage of a great king called Raghu. In Ramcharitamanas there is a saying which time and again Kaikeyi uses to remind Dasharatha, Raghukul riti sada chali aayi, pran na jaye par bachan na jaye. Raghukul riti. Hey Dasharatha, remember you come in the lineage of Raghu. What is the lineage of Raghu? If they promise, they will come fulfill it. You have promised me, fulfill. This is how she keeps reminding him. Raghukula. Raghu, one of the greatest kings. That is why Kalidasa's work is called Raghuvamsham. Since Rama came in the lineage of Raghu, he is called Raghava. Since he is the one with Veera, he is called Veera Raghava in a kshetram called Tiruyavvalur. Since he returned after the battle with victory, he is called Vijaya Raghava in a kshetram called Tiruputkuri. Ichhamohi mahabahum Raghuveeram mahabalam Gajena mahatayantam. Dasharatha, we are waiting for that particular day when you will anoint your son as a heir apparent, as Yuvaraja, and he will be sitting on the elephant. You know what was Rama's elephant called? Sir, should we know the animals' names as well? See, these days if we go to most houses, they will have one pet. And they would have done for Namakaranam for that pet. At times people find it very offensive and abusive when I say, how is your dog? Don't call her dog. She has a name. How will I know that name? Am I a Sarvagya? Only if they tell will I know that name. So people get offended now. If we know the names of the pets, we should know the name of Rama's elephant as well. Correct? See, there was a great Upanyasaka, great Mahavidwan who was rendering discourses in Sringeri Mahasannidhanam. That time Mahasannidhanam asked in the middle, because he was narrating Bhagavatam, Dashamaskandam in Ekadashaskandam. He was narrating that Krishna came in his chariot after reading the verses of Rukmini, Shritva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shrinvatante Nirvishya Karna Vivaraihi Haratongatabam Rupam Dusham Dushimatam Akhilarthalabam Tvai Achyuta Avishadi Chittam Apatrapam. She had written 7 verses. Krishna, come and rescue me from my brother. He is planning to get me married to Sishupala. I wish to get married to humans and not stray dogs. This is what she says. Govayuvan Mrigapater Bali Rambujaksha, she says. So Krishna comes in his chariot. The chariot was driven by 4 horses. This is what Shukabrahmam tells. And this is what that Upanyasaka, that Pravachanakarta was also saying. Immediately Mahasannidhanam of Sringeri Peetham stopped. He said, stop. Very good narration. Tell me the names of the 4 horses. He said, 4 horses. Horse number 1, 2, 3, 4. What name can I give? No. You should know the names of the horses. Sir, is it important? He asked. Yes, because they are Krishna's horses. The 4 horses, I'll tell you the names now. You remember, if somebody asks you, you should know. Sugriva Shaibhya Megha Pushpa Balahaka. These are the 4 horses' names. What is the elephant's name? Shrutanjaya. So if you want to call your grandson, incoming, homecoming, newcoming grandsons by a unique name, every day I'll get 4 bills. Sir, my child is born, give me that name. If I suggest 4 names, they'll say, no, these are all very common names. Give us some name which nobody has used to this world. How will I know that name? So use this name, Shrutanjaya. So, Gajena Mahatayantam. We wish that Rama sits on Shrutanjaya and comes. Gajena Mahatayantam. Ramam Chhatra Vritananam. We wish that somebody holds an umbrella. Because Rama will get tanned in this heat, Uttar Pradesh heat. he will get tanned. Dasharatha thought for a minute, he is already tanned. What is there to get more tanned? Ramam Chatra Vritananam, they have to hold the umbrella for him. So as he heard the people speak their emotions, he was very sure that Rama was the apt person to succeed him. He immediately asked, he had asked his subjects, now he asked Vasishtha, his spiritual advisor. Vasishtha, what do you think? What qualification do you think Rama has to become the next king? Vasishtha said, his wife is good. Why in politics, more than the person who is coming to that position, his wife and children have to keep up that good name of that person. In Tamil Nadu, if the sons don't give a good name to the father, or the father is very supportive, or the sons misappropriate deeds, then it is called Chidambara Rahasyam. So, here Vasishtha said, his wife is good. How good is she? Tayyilum Nallal. Tayyilum Nallal tells Kambar. Tayyilum Nallal means she is the best amongst the women folk in the world. What a sweeping statement. You know, the Devi of a Shiva Kshetram called as Vaitishwaran Kovil is called Tayyil Nayaki. Shrivagbhavakuta Jata Chaturveda Swarupinim Shringara Kamara Jodbhava Sakala Vishwavyapinim Devim Shakti Bijodbhava Matrukana Sharirinim Devanuta Bhava Rogahara Vaidyapati Hridaya Viharini Bhavaragata Modini Bhakta Vishta Pradayini Sevaka Janapalana Guru Guharupa Muddu Kumara Janani Bhajare Re Chitta Balambika. You know what is special about this Kriti and your temple? Any guesses? Yeah, see, you have come on a weak day. Be strong. Now the Subramanya Swami who is giving darshanam here is said to be the replica of Subramanya Swami of Vaitishwaran Kovil. So he is called Muttu Kumara Swami. Upon his blessing was born Muttu Swami Dikshitar. So Dikshitar has a special connection with this composition. So he says, Muttu Kumara Janani Bhajare. That Balambika in Tamil is called as Tayyil Nayaki. Sita is referred to as Tayyil Nallal. Vasishtha says, okay, you can make Rama the heir apparent. Dasharatha wanted to keep this like a secret, like demonetization. Dirghabahum Mahasatvam Mattamatangagaminam. He said, call Rama to my inner chamber. You know, Shuddhatma. In Sanskrit, what does Shuddhatma mean? Shuddha Atma, pure soul, is what we assume. No, we cannot separate the word Shuddha plus Atma as Shuddhatma. Shuddhatma means Antavpuram. So he called Rama to his Antavpuram and Rama walked. You know, whenever Rama walks, immediately the saints and poets will start writing verses, because the way he walks is very, very important. When the Lord walks, it is called Chaturgatihi. You know, in Vishnu Sahasranamam you get this Nama Chaturgatihi. The way he walks, that gait. Whereas when Mahalakshmi walks, it is called Hamsagati. Annavadi Valashayum Anna Nadayal Buyaru Annavara Sheri Varuvai Artanayan Buttiyana Attiyana Butti Puriyal, says Vedanta Deshika. Annavadi Val Ashayum Anna Nadayal Buyaru Annavara Sheri Varuvai Attanayan Buttiyana Attiyana Butti Puriyal. If one says this, then in Tamil Nadu they can claim we support Tamil. Dirghabahum Mahasatvam Mattamatangaminam Chandrakantananam Ramam Adiva Priyadarshanam. The moment Rama came inside Dasharatha's chamber, he prostrated at the feet of his father and said, Abhivadaye. Sapranjalerabhipretya pranataha piturantike namasvam shrabayan ramo bhavande charanau pituhu. He immediately said, Abhivadaye. See, during the college days, the seniors will rag. Give me your intro. We have to say, sir, I am from this particular school, sir. So there is a Vedic introduction. It is called Abhivadaye. You tell in which DNA you have come, which lineage. You have to mention the Gotram. Then you have to mention the famous alumni from that university. It is called Pravaram. Then you have to mention the procedure of which Rishi you follow. That is called as you say, right, Angirasa Ambarisha, I will tell I belong to Harita Gotram, Ambarisha Yavanasva Trayarshe Pravaranvita Harita Gotraha Apastamba Sutraha. That procedure is Sutraha. There are many, each Gotram will have different Pravarams. Some Gotrams are very special. Srivatsa Gotram, any Srivatsa Gotram here? Very good. 1, 2, 3. How many Rishis will you tell? Detail I get print, sir. How many Rishis will come in your Abhivadaye? Pancha Rishayehe Pravaranvida. Srivatsa Gotram is special. It will have 5 Rishis in it. So, Pravaranvita, Harita Gotraha, Apastamba Sutraha, Yirushakhadyai. So, this is how we say to which Veda we are propagating. Then you tell your Sharma. Today, these days, the Sharma in Abhivadaye and the real name are totally different. In most of the marriage invitations we will get Shanta Shamadamadi Asankheya Kalyana Gurangal Sampurnara எழுந்தருளிருக்க கூடிய சுவாமியின் சந்நிதியில் அடியன் தாளும் தடக்கையும் குப்பிச்சையும் விஞ்ஞாபனம் உபயோகோபரி க்ஷேமம். This particular village Dauhitranum, this particular son's putranum ஆகிய அபர்யாப்தாமிருதன் என்கின்ற நிதினுக்கு. That Nitin is what? Whom we know. Aparyaptamrita we will not know. Apita Kuchambal என்கின்ற நிஷாவுக்கு. So the Nisha only we know only darkness. We don't know Apita Kuchambal. So that Abhivadaye will come with that particular Sharma. Navaham Asmi Bhoho. Then you remember when you do Abhivadaye, you should check if the person whom we are doing Abhivadaye is qualified enough to receive our Abhivadaye. Tamil there is a saying, Porava Varavadakal. So that person should know what you are telling. And it should never be done for a group. Mama, I cannot do push-ups and pull-ups individually. All of you stand. And you should never do it for a sannyasi. When you go see, either if you are a Smartha, you may see a Shringeri Swami or a Kanchi Swami. If you are a Shri Vaishnava, you may go to Ahobala Matham, Andavanashram, whichever is a sannyasi. You should not go and do Abhivadaye to them because a sannyasi is actually not bothered who you are. They should not know your address. So Rama said, Sapran namasvam shravayan rame bhavande charanau pituhu. Then Dasharatha informed Rama, I have made one decision that you will become the Yuvaraja. Had Dasharatha told me, I would have thrown a party that next minute. Are you sure, Daddy? I would have asked. He informs, Tvaya yatav praja kshemaha swagунairanуранjitaha tasmatvam pushya yogena yauvarajyam abapnuni. I am planning to coronate you on the day of Pushya Nakshatram. Then he said, Dear Rama, I advise you, bhuyo vinayamasthaya. If you are humble till now, after this announcement that I have made to you, you should be even more humble. Bhava nityam jitendriyaha kama krodha samuthani tyajasva vyasanani cha. When Rama was announced about his coronation, how was Rama's reaction? Kamban, the Tamil poet, gives Tadai apparisurai sheida tamarai kannan kadal buttrilan. He immediately did not get excited. Igaldilan, he did not get sad. Kadanidu yendru unardum yadu kotravan. He was like, it was like any other normal day. He said, okay father, I will get ready. That's all. This is his reaction. See, but we don't like such people generally in our lives, right? Suppose we have made, I don't know how many of you know, in Gujarati flavors, there is one dish called as undhiyo. Have you tasted it? After the Paryushan period, they make it. Jainas, they have a period called Paryushan. They will keep falling at the elders' feet and say, Michami Dukadam. It's a Prakritam saying, whatever mistakes I've committed, forgive. Then as a celebration, they will make undhiyo. That is a 2-day process to make the dish. You have to put 22 ingredients and 18 ingredients in the masala alone. After 2 days of hard work, this undhiyo is made. And imagine he or she who has made it gives it to the consort or whoever is a better half. What will he or she expect? Their reaction should be amazing. That's how they'll expect. If you give a reaction like Rama, Tadaya Parisurai Shaidaka, and that person will say, no, Dushyanth's lecture, he said Rama did not react well. Let Rama not react, but you react. So, Dasharatha then called Rama again. See, Dasharatha had a unique connection with Rama. Later, Kulashekar Advar describes, Va Poguva. It seems he used to call Rama, Rama, come here. Rama used to come, go. And Rama used to walk back. Rama, come here. You do this with your children. They will reprimand you, abuse you. You call them, Po. Why did you call him? Rama was called and then he was asked to go back. Why? The commentator states because Dasharatha wanted to relish Rama's saundaryam from the front and the back. Munnilum pinnadagiya perumalanno. So Rama was called again. Ramam punarihanaya. Come again. He said, see, there are some inauspicious signs that I see. Prayena cha nimittanam idrushanam samudbhave raja hi mrityumam noti ghoram chapamadgrichati. They say that the king, the ruling king may die. So before I die, I want to take a decision. He says, Avedayanti daivajnaha surya angaraka rahubihi. Surya Angaraka Rahubihi. Sun, Mars, Rahu. He is regarded as one shadow devata. They are all coming in one line. So it is said that in such circumstances there will be some arajakam or kalapam in the region. So I want to do it. But he also said, see, you may be wondering, Rama, that you will want the coronation of yours to happen, then Bharata is here. Where was Bharata then? Remember the first shlokam of, Ayodhya Kanda, what is the shlokam? Gacchata matulakulam bharatena tata anagha shatrughnaha nitya shatrughnaha nitah priti puraskritaha. Gacchata matulakulam. He had gone to his matula. That means his maternal side. Bharatena tatha anagaha. Bharata tatha anagaha. Bharata and the flawless one had gone. Not Bharata, the flawless one. Bharata and the flawless one. Who is the flawless one? Shatrughna. Tatha anagaha. Agha in Sanskrit means fault. Anagha means faultless, blemishless. Shatrughnaha. Nitya Shatrughnaha. You remember on day 1, while Vasishtha had christened this last of the sons called Shatrughna, I said he had won over his enemies while not fighting any battle. What was that enemy? He had won over the enemy called as Rama Bhakti. Sir, come again. Rama Bhakti is an enemy? Yes. See, if I say that Mount Everest is taller than you, I pick one of you and say, see, Mount Everest is taller than you, you laugh at me. Sir, of course, that is 8,848 meters above the mean sea level. I am not even a meter above the mean sea level. That is of course 8,847 meters above me. What is so surprising? Similarly, if I tell that, no, well, I have bhakti towards Vishnu. What is so great? He has got 16 ayudhas with him. He is the one who vanquished demons in the war. He is the one who creates. He is the one who sustains. He is the one upon which the dissolution of the universe happens. So to agree that the Lord is greater than me is no great task from our side. But if I find one mama who has been relentlessly serving the Lord for all the 30 years in Maryland, coming every weekend to recite pasurams in the Sannidhi of the Lord, and then I say, Mama, you are greater than the Lord to me, that is important. Because that Mama is just like me. He is not like Mount Everest. He is shorter than me. He is weaker than me. But I know that his bhakti is greater than what bhakti I have towards the Lord. So, Bhagavata bhakti is more important than Bhagavad bhakti. This is what is told to us by the Western world as service to mankind is service to God. Service to Bhagavatas is service to Bhagavan. So Bhagavata bhakti is more important than Bhagavad bhakti. But to attain Bhagavata bhakti, you have to cross the obstacle called as Bhagavad bhakti. See, of course, the Mama whom I revere, want to revere, is not as handsome as the Bhadrachala Rama who is giving darshana. So I have to win over the Lord's beauty to arrive at this not so great looking Mama. So Rama's Saundaryam, Rama's Lavanyam, Rama's Saukumaryam becomes the obstacle. So Rama was an epitome of beauty, was an epitome of valor. So Lakshmana and Bharata naturally fell for his beauty. But Shatrughna did not do that. He won over the enemy called as Rama's Bhakti, Rama Saundaryam, to serve Rama's devotee called Bharata. So he won over a Nitya Shatru called as Rama Bhakti. So he is called Shatrughna. Shatrughna, Nitya Shatrughna, Nita Preeti Puraskritaha. Generally, I don't know how many of you can relate to this. In those days, as grandchildren, a lot of the elderly people here, at least I can relate to it, when we used to visit our grandparents for about 15-20 days on our vacation, to leave us back in our parents' place, they will see the Panchangam. First they will check whether our Nakshatram is on that day or not. Then they will check if it is Ashtami or Navami. If it is a girl child, they will not give her on Friday. So, the permutation, and finally they will have to arrive at one particular date. So they will check into the Panchangam. When Bharata left Ayodhya to his maternal house, the commentator asks, the father checked the Panchangam for Bharata's Nakshatram was matching or not. Did they check Shatrughna's Nakshatram? No. Why? Because Shatrughna was like the scabbard to a sword. Oru vaadukku irukkum urai polam avan. See, when a person walks, you will check that person's Nakshatram. You will not check his shadow's Nakshatram. So Shatrughna was like the shadow to Bharata, so there was no need. Nitaf Preeti Puraskritaha. So as Bharata was in his maternal side, the father says, see Rama, I want to do the coronation in the absence of Bharata. Kim nu chittam manushyanam anityamiti me matam. Kim nu chittam, we don't know how people's attitude will change. I want to do it. So what does this imply? Dasharatha doubted his very own son Bharata. See, Bharata remains the most misunderstood patram in Ramayana. For no fault of his, everyone blamed him. Even his mother did not understand. Had she known the real nature of her son, would she end up asking those two boons? She had not understood. So did the father. Kim nu chittam manushyana. Bhagavad Pada says, Artham anartham bhavaya nityam nasti tatat sukhaleshat satyam putradapi dhana bhaja bhitihi sarvatraisha Vidariti bhaj govindam. Artham anartham. Artham ante emi? Artham ante meaning. Artham ante innokati artham emi?
Money.
Wealth. Artham has two meanings. Meaning and wealth. You know, people often say Sanskrit and Tamil are two different languages. Don't try to bring them together. There is huge politics going on that. You know, in Tamil, you know what is the meaning? What is the word for meaning? Porul. You know what is the word for wealth? Porul. Look at the samyam of Sanskritam and Tamil. Languages bear no animosity towards each other. Followers do. So Dasharatha doubted his very own son. After having told Rama that you should become the heir apparent, he said this decision was not told to anybody in the kingdom. Dasharatha knew, one or two ministers knew, like Sumantra. Rama knew. Rama would not go and tell to others. Dasharatha did not want to tell to others. He wanted to keep this a big secret. But there was Ayodhya media. Media will know information before. So they were all elated. Somehow the news spread. Tomorrow Rama's Pattabhishekam. Somehow they all got very happy. They were waiting for this moment. Because Dasharatha just asked, what if I make the Rama the heir apparent? That's all. He didn't say tomorrow I will make him tomorrow's. Immediately they concluded that Rama will be made the heir apparent. That is when Arunachala Kavi, one of the greatest composers in the Tamil classical language, states, Parashuraman Garvam Tirthavandi. What is Rama's qualification to become the heir apparent? Parashuraman Garvam Tirthavandi Nammayallam avan Kathavandi Pattam Katta Ethavandi. What is his qualification? Does he have the legal right? Nalu peril muttavandi adi. What is the other qualification? Avan en kanmani ramanukku mannan mudi dharitale nanmayundoru kale. So they were all extremely happy. So the invitation was sent to every possible king for the Pattabhishekam. But who was not invited? Any guesses? Kaikeyi's father and Sita's father. In the invitation list, these two names were missing. So, Pura bhratav pitana samataram te samudvahan mata mahe samashrausi draja shulkamanuttamam. So, as this was being held on one side, Vasishtha knew that this Pattabhishekam will happen. He called Rama and said, Rama, see, tomorrow your Pattabhishekam is going to happen. You have to take the ritualistic bath now, ceremonial bath. You and Sita have to do puja at the beautiful Sannidhanam of Ranganatha. You know, the Ranganatha whom you see in Srirangam originally was in Uttar Pradesh, main road, Uttar Pradesh. He shifted his capital from Uttar Pradesh to Srirangam. That comes later in Uttarakandam, where the Lord presents the Kuladhanam to Vibhishana. So he was originally in Ayodhya. Vedanta Deshika, a polymath of the 13th century, cites this. Arada Arulamudam Pudinda Koyil, Ambuyathon Ayodhimannar Kalitta Koyil, Tolada Taniviran Toluda Koyil, Tunayana Vedanarku Tunayam Koyil, Sherada Payanellam Sherkum Koyil, Sherumarayin Mudal எழுத்து சேர்ந்த கோயில், தீராத வினயனைத்தும் தீர்க்கும் கோயில், திருவரங்கமெனத் கோயில் தானே. So this Lord whom you see in Srirangam was once in Ayodhya. So Lord Goddess Sita and Rama had to go and sleep in the mandapam outside the temple that night. Aradhaya Jagannatham Ikshvaku Kula Deivatam. So first she had to do Aradhanam to the Lord. Sahapatnya Visalakshyaam Narayanam Upagamatu, says Valmiki. Along with his wife, who is Rama's wife? Sita. What are the other names of Sita that you know? Maithili, Janaki, Vaidehi. All these are names. You know what name he uses? Sahapatnya Vishalakshya, the one with large eyes. Rama went. Why should he use the name Vishalakshi? Because when Rama does Aradhanam to Ranganatha, the commentator says, see, two things have to go hand in hand. One, Harati. मैं हर बार बताता हूं, वो आरती नहीं है. अक्षर जो है, आ से शुरू होती हुई वो शब्द जो आरती है वो नहीं है. आरती का अर्थ है डिस्ट्रेस, दुख देना. गंगा जी की आरती उतार रहे हैं, गंगा जी को क्यों दुख दे रहे हैं आप? वो आ नहीं होती है, वो हा होती है. हयग्रीवा हारती. So harati means this posture, this mudra is called harati. It's not arti. Why do they say arti these days? Who wants to correct their mistakes? First of all, it becomes a prestige issue. नहीं, आस्था चैनल में तो आरती ही बोलते हैं. मैं क्या करूं? गलत तो गलत ही होता है ना. So आरती, it's not आरती, harati. So when you do harati, it is said sarvavadyamayi ghanta. You have to play auspicious instruments. Veri, mridanga, mridda, tumburu, veena, venu, madduga, dandima, janjari, chalari, panava, attadasha, vadya, gosha. 18 instruments you have to play. Who will play in our houses? Do we know venu? Do we know veena? We know only Gayatri and we know Shashank. More than that we don't know. Who will play all these? So Shastram tells sarva vadyamayi ghanta. Equivalent to 18 instruments is ghanta. That is easier. Vedanta Deshika was an aparavataram of ghanta. Vitrasini vibudhavairi varuthininam padmasane parichare vidho prayukta utprekshate buddhajanai upapatti bhumna ghanta harehe samajanishta yadatmaneti, he says in Sankalpa Suryodaya. So this particular ghanta, it has to go like this. Then only the sound will get emanated from it. Then harati should go like this. Try doing this simultaneously. It will never happen. This will go like this. This will go like this. See, there are two actions. They have to happen simultaneously, but there are different movements to it. Correct? Imagine the ghanta in the temples and especially old Aradhana days. I don't know how many of you remember seeing your fathers doing Aradhana. The ghanta will be 1.5 kgs. Not this chotu one that we get these days. Ghanta, then harati you have to do. Harati, try. I'm telling what my acharyas have told. Don't do it with camphor. All these temples these days, big camphor they'll take. You have to do it with deepam. So deepam is the right way. This camphor, no. All these crackers job, Deepavali job, you should not do. Only with deepam you have to do harati. Anyways, see, now you may ask, what if I do with camphor? Nothing will happen. These are the recommended ways in Sanatana Dharma. No death sentence will be issued in Sanatana Dharma, don't worry. They will just recommend. Rishis are all very liberal. You do, you want to do, you do, else don't do. This is the most liberal civilization. You want to follow Ekadashi, follow. Or if you want to eat like Dwadashi, eat like Dwadashi on Ekadashi. That is your wish. So this Aradhanam was done to Ranganatha by Rama. So Sita was amazed. She had large eyes. But looking at the way Rama was performing, he did not have practice. One sudden day he comes and does this. She thought, extremely talented man. So out of this element of surprise, her large eyes became larger. So Valmiki said, Sahapatnya Vishalakshya. The other interpretation is, he is doing Aradhana to himself. Who is the one who is reclining? Narayana. Who is Rama? Narayana. So he is doing Aradhana to himself. Then she was wondering, is the sleeping Narayana handsome or the sitting Narayana handsome? Then she was wondering, every time she looked at Ranganatha, Ranganayakam Bhavayeham Shri Ranganayaki Sametam at Ranganatha, he's handsome. Saptaprakara madhye sarasija mukulodbhasamane vimane kaveri madhyadeshe mrudutara panirad bhogaparyanka bhage nidra mudra virama katini katashira parshvavinyasta hastam padma dhatri karabhyam parichita charanam rangarajam bhajeham. He's so handsome. And then when she looked at Rama, Devarayum Asurarayum Dishaigalayum Padaitavane. He is more handsome. So she did not know who is the winner of this competition. So her eyes became large. Sahabatnya Vishalakshya Narayanamupagamat. So this has been mentioned by Parashara Bhatta as well. So the entire city was extremely happy. That moment. See, Valmiki, you should read